Chapter 9, Becoming an Elder. Question: Brother, how does one become an elder? Response: Becoming an elder happens only by preordination. The same is true for chiefs and judges as well. In the 78 trillion year history of our planet, every single one of the 8 billion gods has been an elder at one time or another. In this reply, I will talk about all three groups of our leaders. First of all, when I said a king or queen rules for 25,000 years, that is only an estimate. They can rule anywhere from 25,000 to 35,000 years, depending on their mission. The length of their reign is based on the cycle of the Sirius star, which is 1,460 years. The ruler rules for about 20 of these cycles, or 29,200 years. But they do not follow this cycle precisely. Some will rule for a shorter period, some for a longer period, but the average is 29,200 years. The entire cycle for all 24 elders to rule lasts for 24 times 29,200, which equals 700,800 years. In our 78 trillion year history, there have been over 100 million of these cycles. So as you can imagine, each one of the 8 billion gods has rotated into the eldership at least twice, some twice and some 3 times. When each and every one of the 8 billion has been an elder 7 times, then our planet will reach a state of perfection. At that point, new people will no longer be born on Earth. When that time comes, we, who will be on the planet as the last inhabitants, will no longer ascend. There will no longer be a governmental structure that rules the Earth. All people will cooperate on the same high level like the original people did on the first Earth at the beginning of the universe. This type of cooperation and coordination is instantaneous and perfect in every respect, as the people are all united as one in mind. We will then live continuously while we help the rest of the younger planets that came after us to join us in the state of perfection. These are planets to which we sent settlers from Earth in the past. There are solar systems closer to the center of the universe that have already reached the state of perfection. These are planets that long ago sent out settlers to occupy newly created planets, just as our ancestors sent settlers from Sirius, our parent planet, and their ancestors sent settlers to Sirius from another star, our grandparent planet. So as the universe continues to increase outward like that, the older sun systems that are much older than Sirius or our Earth, that are located closer to the center of the universe, reach perfection first. Then their inhabitants help the rest to do the same. Now, the couple that are to become the next elders, when they are senior citizens at around 7,000 years of age, are informed of their destiny by the ruling king and queen, and are thus delayed from ascending. They or anyone else are never told of their special destiny before then, so that the couple can have a normal life just like all other citizens. They are formally ordained when they are about 25,000 years old, but they don't immediately become elders at that age. The ordination is so that they can begin their training. Both of them, the man and the woman, are about the same age, the woman usually being younger by the man by only a few years. When they are about 100,000 years old, they will join the eldership when the ruling elders ascend. They become the king and queen of the tribe of the 2 elders that just passed away. That tribe is the first and primary tribe when its king and queen are the rulers of the earth. But now, with the passing of the king and queen, it becomes the last or 12th tribe with its new king and queen. It will remain the last tribe for about 50,000 years. The second tribe takes over the first position, the third takes over the second, and so on. Each couple of elders choose their own 144 chiefs. They choose 6 men and 6 women from each tribe. They don't choose them when they join the eldership because at that time their chiefs to be aren't born yet. The elders, as I said, live for over 700,000 years. The chiefs live for about 490,000 years. They choose their chiefs when they, the elders, are about 217,000 years old. The chiefs to be that they select at that time are just then senior citizens at 7,000 years old, 72 men and 72 women, soulmate couples. They were getting ready to ascend with the rest of their generation, who are 144 million in number, when the two elders approached them and informed them that it is not yet time for them to ascend to the ancestors' worlds. They are informed that they have a mission of many, many more years on Earth and will ascend along with their elders after they have finished ruling the Earth, which will be when they, the 144 chiefs to be, are over 490,000 years old. They then accept this honor and become permanently attached to those two elders as their sons and daughters, as they are called, for the rest of their lives. The training of the new 144 chiefs to be starts when they are 7,000 years old. They are trained primarily by their two elders, but many times also by the reigning chiefs and all the chiefs to be that are above them, as well as the other elders. At any given time on Earth, under normal circumstances, i.e., not including this age of self forgetfulness, there are 1,296 chiefs in training, plus the reigning 144 chiefs, for a total of 1,440 chiefs. As stated, the elders choose their chiefs when they are around 217,000 years old, when their tribe is in the 10th position. So every couple of elders, from the 10th to the 9th to the 8th to the 7th, and so on to the second tribe, all have chiefs to be. Only the last two tribes, the 11th and the 12th tribe elders, do not have chiefs in training, but they all have the 12 chiefs of their tribe who are part of the 144 ruling chiefs of the earth. So the youngest chiefs in training are 7,000 years old, being the adopted sons and daughters of the two elders of the 10th tribe. And those of the last two tribes are at least 43,000 years away from being born. Now, every two elders rule for about 50,000 years, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. The queen always rules first for about 25,000 years, followed by the king for another 25,000 years. I will explain later why the queen always rules first. So every 50,000 years or so, the two rulers will ascend and a new king and queen will take over. And all the other elders will advance up, the last or 12th tribe becoming the 11th becoming the 10th, and so on up to the second becoming the first, and the first becoming the last, and remaining the last for 50,000 years. At those times of transition, every 50,000 years or so, new chiefs take over also, as each group of ruling chiefs ascend to the ancestral world along with their two elders, as well as their judges, which I will explain later. So every two elders advance up in eldership. They advance along with their chiefs to be, who, as I said, are permanently attached to them. They continue to teach and train them. Their training is very comprehensive, lasting for over 433,000 years. It is almost as comprehensive as that of the elders themselves, who remain in training for over 625,000 years before they become the rulers of the earth. As stated, the elders are ordained when they are 25,000 years old. That is when their formal training to be elders begins. After another 75,000 years, they are inducted into the eldership. Their training continues until they are 650,000 years old. Then they become the king and queen of the earth. They are trained by all the elders above them, especially the two immediately above them. While in this long period of training, they are the king and queen of their tribe. Now, when they get to the 10th position, even though they are training their own chiefs during that time, they nonetheless have 12 chiefs who are the reigning chiefs of their tribe, who were chosen by the reigning king and queen. As you can imagine, these reigning 12 chiefs, the ones who belong to the 10th tribe, are older than the king and queen of their tribe. In fact, they are older than the kings and queens of the last 7 tribes. Nonetheless, they still function under all the elders. As I stated, the new chiefs are selected when they are 7,000 years old. When they get to be 427,000 years old, they select their 144,000 judges. They go to the senior citizen generation that is just about to ascend, those that have finished their seventh great ritual. From among them, they select 144,000 who will become their judges. Judges normally live for about 70,000 years. They are selected when they are 7,000 years old also. From then on, they are trained by their chiefs as well as by the reigning judges for a period of 13,000 years until they are 20,000 years old. At that time, the ruling king and queen ascends. A new king and queen take over, and so do a new group of 144 chiefs and their 144,000 judges. It is immediately after the ascension of the ruling king and queen that the new chiefs to be and judges to be are selected, and this happens once every 50,000 years or so. The reason the elders can only select their chiefs when they, the elders, are 217,000 years old, and the chiefs can only select their judges when they, the chiefs, are 427,000 years old, has to do with the lifespan of all three groups of leaders, the elders, chiefs, and judges. In any cycle, all living beings, including animals and plants, are allocated their lifespan. When a planet has reached a state of perfection, it is no longer influenced by cycles, and thus all people and animals no longer die or ascend. At the beginning of the universe, there are no cycles yet also, as there are no stars and time does not exist, so the original people can live as long as they choose. They chose to live for 1 trillion years because that was all the time they needed to create the universe. After that, once the stars have appeared, cycles begin. At that point, nature and astrological circumstances dictate the lifespan of all living things, including people, according to the law set down by the original people. These laws hold true for a planet until the planet reaches perfection. The laws dictate the lifespan according to the purpose of each cycle. Before this cycle of self-forgetfulness that we are in, the majority of people had a lifespan of 7,000 years in all the cycles. Now and then, as dictated by natural law, a man and woman will be conceived in astrological conditions that dictate a much longer lifespan. In the case of chiefs, a lifespan of around 490,000 years. When this happens, the elders, being the only ones who know this, know that those two will become chiefs. Like all other living beings, their lifespan is dictated by the astrological circumstances of their conception, and they will live that long because back then there were no accidents or any other kind of premature deaths. Now, it's possible that they, or any other regular person for that matter, can extend their lives beyond their allocated lifespan, but such a thing was so rare that it happened only in situations where it had been planned beforehand by the elders as part of their purpose. So the normal way is that when such people incarnate, their lifespan will be according to their astrological conditions. Of course, when I say a lifespan of 490,000 years, this too is an average. In actuality, it could be as low as 480,000 or as high as 500,000 years, but not much more or less than that. That being the case, and being that the elders live for about 700,000 years, it stands to reason that each pair of elders have to wait until they are about 210,000 years old before their chiefs to be are born. Then wait another 7,000 years for them to complete all the 7 great rituals of the Black nation before they can be selected. Once selected, they will be permanently attached to those 2 elders and ascend with them when the elders are about 700,000 years old and the chiefs about 490,000 years old. Similarly, the chiefs have to wait till they are about 420,000 years old before their judges to be are born. The judges have a lifespan of about 70,000 years, and then wait another 7,000 years for them to become senior citizens before they can be ordained. The king and queen will rule the earth for about 50,000 years from when they are 650,000 years old until they are 700,000 years old. Their chiefs will reign with them also for 50,000 years from when they are 440,000 years until they are 490,000 years old. So will their judges also from when they are 20,000 until they are 70,000 years old. And then they will all ascend together. There was a certain ancient tradition that existed among some people in this present 6,000-year cycle. In this tradition, when the king died, all his servants would be killed and buried with him. This custom was a misinterpretation of the true form of this tradition, as it was practiced in ancient days. As I said earlier, when the king and queen ascend, they ascend with their chiefs and judges, who are permanently attached to them like their servants. The knowledge of this ancient tradition of the king and queen ascending with their chiefs and judges is what gave rise to the custom among some people of burying a king with all his servants, which is a misinterpretation because the original tradition has nothing to do with unconscious death, but is about conscious ascension. The chiefs and judges took it as a great honor to ascend with their king and queen, and they willingly laid down their bodies. No one had to kill them. In this present cycle, 6,000 years ago, the judges laid down their bodies to be the bodies of resurrection when they were about 54,000 years old. They had been judges for 35,000 years till then. After they resurrect, they will continue to be judges for another 10,000 years old until the rule of the present king comes to an end. When the present king and queen took over from their predecessors about 40,000 years ago, the queen ruled first. This is always the case when a new couple takes over. The queen is the first to rule. The reason is because when our ancient ancestors came here from Sirius, the queen of that time was the first to rule the planet. Every newly occupied planet is called an infant planet. Such a planet must be nurtured for many thousands of years in order to make it comfortable and ready to accommodate the increasing population. It is sort of like a new house that was just recently built, and the woman of the house has to prepare it and make it ready in the way that only women know how, so it can accommodate the children that will be born. The same is true with new planets. Right at the beginning of when the settlers first arrive, the governmental structure operates on a reduced scale while the population increases. The 144,000 settlers who came from Sirius included 24 elders, 144 chiefs, 1,296 chiefs-to-be, and many other scientists, but no judges. As the population increases, judges are selected. When the population reaches the maximum number, then the governmental structure begins to operate full scale. Even though the queen was the ruler throughout this whole time of population growth, which can take as long as 7,000 years to reach 1,008,000,000, she actually begins her reign officially when the population reaches 1,008,000,000. So every new planet is always ruled first by a queen for that reason. Then the king follows after. Therefore, when the first ruling king, queen, and queen of a new planet hand over to their successors after their 50,000-year reign, it will be the king handing over to the queen of the next couple. Since that first handover 78 trillion years ago, it has always been the same tradition right down to this present kingdom, when the previous king handed over to our present queen, whose reign ended 15,000 years ago, after she ruled for more than 25,000 years. It was during the reign of that king 50,000 years ago that they decided to prepare the world for the coming era of Yahweh by sending people out to self-isolation and by beginning to depopulate the earth. When that all started, the present group of 144,000 judges were only about 10,000 years old. They were not yet judges. 10,000 years later, their queen, our present queen of the earth, took over and ruled for 25,000 years. Then she handed over to her soulmate, our present king, who ruled for 9,000 years before handing the world over to Yahweh. So beginning 50,000 years ago, when the judges were 10,000 years old, they were witnesses to the self-isolation process as well as the depopulation process. They lived through the entire degeneration process of our bodies from 12 strands to 2 strands of DNA. Then they saw the rise and fall of Lemuria, as well as the rise and fall of Atlantis, right up to 6,000 years ago when they gave up their bodies and made way for Yahweh to take over. They have all that knowledge, experience, and wisdom in their minds. And these minds today are in self-forgetfulness in the people incarnated as them, who are known as the so-called 144,000 elect. When the 144,000 arise, all that knowledge and history will be resurrected in them when they occupy the bodies of resurrection. They will remember it, as well as the fact that they are full gods who have already completed all the seven great rituals of the Black nation. They will join their chiefs and their king and queen to rule the earth for another 10,000 years after Yahweh. Then they will all ascend together. We will then get help from our ancestral planet of Sirius to rebalance the coming cycle. This type of help is needed in all situations where a planet, for one reason or another, has to reduce its population. It happens on every planet. For example, when it comes time to begin a new cycle of 24 elders, and the continents of the planet have to be rearranged by natural cataclysms. Then the inhabitants will reduce the population to about 144 million people and go to settle on another nearby planet. When they come back, it is always the case that there are not enough people who have completed all seven great rituals to fill all the positions of chiefs to be and judges to be, as well as many other scientific positions that require all seven great rituals. As a result, the ancestral planet, the planet from which their ancestors came, which would be Sirius in our case, will send enough people to fill those positions until the cycle has been rebalanced. So after 10,000 years, when our next cycle begins, the king and queen will ascend with all their chiefs and judges. In order to rebalance the cycle, 2 young elders, along with 144 chiefs and 1,296 chiefs to be, and many other scientists, will come from Sirius to help rule our Earth and reestablish its balance in the galaxy.